What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today I wanted to get into some comments that Tanner Engstrand made on the official New York Jets podcast about the offensive philosophy, the center competition, and much more on the Jets offense. First, I want to start with a clip on Tanner Engstrand talking about two things. First, the offensive philosophy just in general, and the importance of the relationship between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback.
What do you want the play style to be on the offensive side of the ball?
We want to be a physical and aggressive unit. You know, we want to be explosive, of course. And I think that's where it starts. You know, you can talk about those three things. And we want to be detailed. We want to be one of the most detailed teams there is. And we want that to show up on tape.
You played quarterback yourself. What kind of relationship does an offensive play caller have to have with the quarterback?
I think they have to think the same. They have to know what each other is thinking. So when I call a play, Justin or the other quarterbacks have to know what I'm thinking and why I'm calling that play. So you really have to be on the same wavelength as far as what you're trying to accomplish with each and every play that's out there.
Fast and physical. That is something that I think Tanner Engstrand has mentioned every single opportunity when he speaks, as well as Aaron Glenn. This is something that the Jets bring up a lot, is how they want to play on offense. And physicality is a really strong attribute that they continue to use over and over and over again. Obviously, in the summer, I think we'll get a better idea, not the perfect idea, but a better idea of what the Jets are going to try to do offensively. They're not going to show everything in training camp and the preseason games, but I think we'll start to see the semblance of an offensive playbook come together and some of the basics and what they're trying to do. And then the second part of this clip, we're talking about the relationship between the OC and the quarterback. I really liked his answer because it kind of goes into, like, they have to be on the same page on the why, right? It's so easy to go, I'm calling the plays because I think that this is the best play that's going to work. And the quarterback's just like, all right, this is what we're going to do. But I think what Tanner Engstrand is emphasizing is he wants his quarterbacks, not just Justin Fields, but all of them, Tyrod Taylor, Brady Cook, all of them, to understand the why they're making those decisions as well. And this kind of goes back to something that Engstrand did in Detroit. He was very involved in the installation phase week to week on the new plays that they were adding, or the different kinds of plays that they were running that week, depending on the opponent. And it was Engstrand's job to explain to the offense their roles and why they were trying to do each thing. So that's something that he's taking from Detroit and implementing it here with the New York Jets. Another interesting quote here, he's talking about the difference between working with a quarterback like Jared Goff and a quarterback like Justin Fields.
This is a different quarterback than what we just played with in Detroit. Jared Goff, more of a stationary target, and move his feet a little bit. But here you guys are going to dual threats now. We're Justin Fields, and he's coaching Caleb Williams now in Chicago.
Yeah, again, I think it all goes back. You have the call it the base offense of what the core is, and then you have to evolve to what your players do well and who those players are and what their abilities are. And yes, he in Chicago and us here, we have more mobile quarterbacks that can utilize their feet as weapons. So it would probably be silly for us to not take advantage of that in some way, shape, or form.
The line he uses, it would be silly not to take advantage of the legs of Justin Fields. And that's a sneaky, underrated quote. And I know that the reaction is going to be, well, isn't that obvious that Justin Fields and Jared Goff are two very different quarterbacks? Yes, it is. But still, something that some coaches, not all, but some coaches have the tendency to be very stubborn. And they're like, this is my offense or this is my defense. And I need guys who are able to run my version of what I'm trying to do, instead of just being like, hey, this is the personnel that I'm working with. These are their strengths. Let's have a base of what we do, but then go off of that. So I don't think the Jets are going to try to make Justin Fields Jared Goff, like a pocket passer who doesn't really move around a lot, which wasn't very high up on my list of concerns, but was something still at the back of my mind because, again, I think we've seen examples from different coaching staffs here with the New York Jets where unfortunately, the word I'm going to use is stubborn. They want to do things their way and only their way, and they need their guys to learn their system. And there is some of that, as Tanner Engstrand saying, like, look, we have a base of what we're going to do, but it'd be silly to just kind of throw away something that makes him a unique player. Justin Fields with his legs is, a rare thing in this league. Outside of Lamar Jackson, there's not too many quarterbacks who run the football better than Justin Fields. So the Jets are going to be using that to their advantage, and I'm very curious to see the kind of offense that Tanner Engstrand builds for Justin Fields. Going back to the quotes on the physicality, using that term to describe the offense, I think it just kind of adds another cherry on top for the reason why the Jets took Armand Membu with the first overall pick. With their first round pick, not first overall. Their first pick in the 2025 draft. It was the first pick that Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji and this regime made. And that to me is really setting the tone, right? Like, you could talk about wanting to be a physical unit and you have an idea of what you want to do, but if you don't use that pick to get yourself there, well, then it's just talk. And look, this is something that I think the Jets really want to do. They want to be a physical team. He plays a very physical game. They want to be good at running the football. Armand Membu's really good in the run game. Absolute no-brainer. He was talking about the rest of the offensive line too, and the one thing he referenced that bothered me in this was the competition again between Joe Tippmann and Josh Myers, which, as you guys know, if you've watched my videos before, it drives me a little nuts because I don't think Josh Myers is nearly as good as Joe Tippmann. So I guess if we're doing this based on merit, Joe Tippmann's going to win the job anyway, I would imagine, but it still just, it irks me a little bit that there's a possibility of Josh Myers taking away first team reps from Joe Tippmann when I kind of just want to see the offensive line continue to work together, build up the chemistry during the summer, and hit the ground running into the regular season. Last thing for me, he referenced Josh Reynolds as someone who they brought in because of how well he knows the offense that they're trying to install. And you need guys like that on the roster, and that also goes back to something that I've talked about a lot and why I think Josh Reynolds is going to end up being the de facto number 2 receiver. After Garrett Wilson, they're going to spread the ball around, right? But you could kind of, split hairs whether it's going to be Josh Reynolds or Alan Lazard or Tyler Johnson or whoever else is going to be catching passes in this offense. I think Reynolds ends up being that guy just because he's going to be that quote unquote reliable vet that they have in this offense. I don't think I'm not going to pencil him in for 70 catches and 800 yards. That's not where I think the Jets are going to distribute the ball. I would expect it to be Garrett far and away the number 1 guy with like 120 targets. And then you have likely Breece Hall after that, Mason Taylor third, and then I would imagine Josh Reynolds as the 4th option in the passing attack. Similar actually to how they used him in Detroit a couple of years ago when it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, the number 1 target, then Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs were after that before you get to the number 2 wide receiver, which Reynolds was for Detroit 2 years ago. So just wanted to come on here quick and talk about some of the things that we heard from Tanner Engstrand. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Subscribe here if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.